Hi, you're watching Esther from Stampin Star Creations. This is a card I'm going to attempt to recreate today. It's not my original design, but I've taken inspiration from a lady called Laura from My Favourite Things on YouTube. So I've gone ahead already and cut out all the pieces, and I'm going to go through the measurements with you. So piece of balmy blue, 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. Then for the stormy sky, 1 3/4 by 3 3/4, and I've used the dies from the seasonal layers to be able to cut out the scalloped edge. Then with the granny apple green, this is 1 inch by 3 3/4, and again just cutting out the edging using the Budding Blooms dies, which matches the Bloom and Grow stamp set. Then for the 2 thick Whisper White pieces, these are 3/4 inch by 3 3/4. Now I've gone ahead and cut out some grooves into these pieces, and it's roughly 1 centimetre, although I did come in on either end, on one end first, just to space out the spaces. There's 9 grooves altogether. So I'm just showing you the mechanism of the card. Don't worry too much, I will go into detail as I go along, but it's just so you've got some idea of how it's put together and how this is going to work. So this is my prototype, and just by doing the prototype I did learn a few tips and tricks along the way. So starting off with the foam strip, these are 3mm foam strips, and in my original I just laid down 1, but I found it needed extra strength, so I'm suggesting that you lay down 2 pieces. If you lay down the pieces first and then snip them afterwards, try and snip them with the backing still left on them. That will help to save your scissors getting too sticky. So all along you need to remember that they are going in the right direction. So you want a set of teeth, as it were, facing downwards, and then a set facing upwards. So this one I try and put the strips on together. Bad idea. It's actually easier just to do the strips separately. You'll see in a minute I get in a bit of a tangle and they're not quite going where I want them. So do just lay down the strips separately, take your time over it, and don't rush like I did. Again, snipping off the excess, they could be used for another project. Then take off your backing and then carefully lie that onto the top of your card. So you want the foam strips to match the top of your balmy blue base card. Now I'm lifting this up to show you, but it doesn't mean that I put it on straight. The main thing is that it goes on straight, so by the time you finish your card it all looks at the right angle. So repeat the process with the bottom half as well, taking off the backing strip again, making sure that the grooves are facing the right direction. You want them facing outwards. You want the ones to face at the top, towards the top, and the ones facing the bottom towards the bottom. And that's how it should look. So your blue card is exposed and you can see the teeth on either side. So I made a boo-boo when ordering my nylon thread. I went too thick. You do need very thin stuff in order to thread the seed beads on it. So originally I ordered the 0.8, which is too thick, and this, what I'm using now, is the 0.25mm. So starting on the left at the top, you want to go into the first groove and just thread a bit of thread in it. And then we're going to stick this down and attach it. I'm using tear and tape for this just because it's nice and strong tape. So make sure that is secured nicely in place. So I'm just trying to gauge how much of this I need. Now I made these up for kits for a workshop, but you probably just need just over 1 metre would be safe. I'm just pouring my seed beads into a little container because this will help with threading. Now if you hold near the end of the thread, you can actually just pick up the beads. If you find it easier, you might want to thread with the needle. Now this is fiddly, and just take your time with it, but it is worth it in the end. So how many beads to put on, the million-dollar question. It's up to you. I found that I did put more on this card and I preferred the way it looked. So I would say between 10 and 15. I didn't bother counting, I just threaded it on how I liked it. Once you've got the first strand on, you want to tuck it in the corresponding gap in the bottom, just making sure that your thread is loose enough for the beads to move around. Now I'm going to show you how I'm attaching it. Actually, just turning my card over to show you that I'm just going into the next notch. You don't have to thread it all the way anywhere. You're literally going into that next notch or tooth and bringing it back up. And then go again with threading your beads on. Then once again, go to the top, go around the next tooth, come down again and start threading. So we've got towards the end and I've done all my threading, gone up and down and through, and then with the end piece just tuck it in the last tooth. So just make sure everything can move. Your card might be a little bit bowed, just got to watch your tension, make sure it's not too tight but also not too loose, because if it's too loose the beads won't move, sorry. So just take your time to fix the tension, make sure the beads are in place, and then you can secure the end of the thread. And just again using a bit of double-sided tape here to stick it down, and then just trim the excess thread off. So I'm pushing all the beads back onto the centre of the card. Now I found my prototype that the beads would slip over this section, and this double-sided tape here actually has a double action because you end up sticking the bits in front of it. So as soon as you put your double-sided tape over the thread, it does stop the beads from slipping down any further, like it did in this one here, which I'm trying to show you. Wasn't really working. It still works fine, it just means it gets caught on the card. So then bring your cards down from the top and again repeat that process, putting double-sided tape along the top on top of the thread that you've been threading. And hopefully you should have this movement, so still with the beads moving up and down but not knocking into the card. I'm grabbing the Granny Apple Green and just sponging up around the edges to darken the outside and to make it stand out more when we come to put our card together. And then for the Stormy Clouds I'm using Basic Grey and going around the edges with my sponge and sponging it up. Now I'm just carefully lifting the scalloped edges here, just to avoid any knocking when the beads go up and down. Now, I decided that I wanted some rain. Now, before I went on and stamped, I thought, no, the umbrella's going to go there. You wouldn't rain where the umbrella's going to go. And I was brave enough to put the stamp on afterwards. Now this was an afterthought and I'm sorry I didn't include it at the beginning of the video because I didn't think about it then. I wanted to add the raindrops to have more of an effect of a stormy day with it raining, and so I managed to stamp it on afterwards in the balmy blue. I'm stamping on my images with smoky slate. I wanted a light outline for me to colour in, so I'm just fitting it on this scrap piece of paper here. And then stamping in the boots and the umbrella with the flowers. I forgot to mask off the front boot. I wanted there to be a separate image on the second boot so it looked like two pairs. And then just stamping on the umbrella. Again, just masking off the top bit there so I could get the flowers on. Don't worry if the flowers don't fit exactly on, just make sure you miss it when you're colouring in. I'm using a piece of post-it note here to help me feed in that stick for the umbrella because I couldn't quite reach, so that's a great tip to have in your catalogue of tips. And then just take off any post-it note that might have punched through. I'm going to go ahead and punch out 2 more of these sticks, again learning from my prototype. I wanted to make it thicker and stronger, so because I'm using our normal Whisper White, it's not as thick as our thicker card, and it just strengthens up the stick if it gets caught. So glue those together in layers with your imaged layer on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut out the welly boots. Obviously you can punch out the umbrella, but the welly boots you need to fussy cut. I'm bringing in Balmy Blue, Daffodil Delight and Granny Apple Green for my colouring. I decided to go in with the light Daffodil Delight for all the flowers. I'm just popping on my light so I can see what I'm doing. And just to give it a nice spring look. And then I'm going to be using the dark Daffodil Delight just to concentrate in the centre of the flowers. Then with the dark Granny Apple Green, I'm just dabbing it on where the stems are in the stamped images with the dark Granny Apple Green, and then just going over it with the light. I found that the felt tip point was best for the colouring in. Then for the umbrella, just going down one left side of the umbrella, following the lines and going in with the darkest Balmy Blue, and the same with the boots along the top and the soles, and then concentrating on the left side. That stick kept sticking to me, it liked me. Going down the left side with the Balmy Blue. Coming back with the light Balmy Blue in the Stampin' blends. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this down on Whisper White. Don't worry about your tape, just work around it. I found that sticking it on the white card just helps it all to stand out. Then we're using the existing double-sided tape that's on there. This is where it's going to come in handy. We're going to peel that back and then you can stick your clouds on top. Just take your time to align it and make sure there's enough gap around the edge where your card is. Again, just giving the clouds a little lift to make sure they're out of the way of the beads. Give it a little test run and then peel off the bottom half of the tear and tape. Again, just take your time lining up the grass section because this is where we're finishing off and bringing it all together. So I'm using a glue dot just to adhere my stick and figuring out where I want the umbrella to go on my card, and then popping the stick underneath so I've got it where I want it to go. Using some multi-liquid purpose glue, I'm sticking it down, and I wanted to cover the rain clouds, so just bring it down far enough to cover that area. And then I'm going to adhere the boots in the opposite corner. All that's left to do now is to add the sentiment. So for my sentiment today I'm going to be using Balmy Blue, as I wanted a change of ink for this card. So I'm stamping it towards the end of my card because I'm going to go ahead with these stitched framelets, and I'm using this particular size here, whichever size it is, to cut the image out. It was a 1.5 by the 2.5 stitched framelit. And then I've just trimmed the edge down to stick it on my card. And there you have the 2 cards all done. And I hope these little tips help you to find that it helps to make this card. And it's a really fun interactive rainfall card. I can't stop playing with it now, I keep moving it up and down. I think it looks really nice and different in both the colours. So do subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribing already, and like this video. Let me know how you got on with it, and here is the card in slow motion, like proper rain falling. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good day. Take care and God bless. Bye.